Hello everyone, it's Old Guardian here. America's winter playoffs were played last weekend, and in this video I'm going to take a look at the results, the successful lineups and successful decks that were part of the tournament. We start with the results, so if you're not interested in spoilers, if you still haven't watched the games and you want to do so, then go watch the games and come back after that, because here comes the results. In the first group of the top 8, the double elimination group, there were Bobby X, Ike, Nalgidan and Uchiha Sasuke, and out of these 4 players, Ike and Bobby X were able to clear their way to the championship. In the second group, there were Bloodyface, Killin' All Day, Noblord and Starfruit, and out of these 4 players, Noblord and Bloodyface cleared their way to the championship. This top 8 was determined after 7 rounds of Swiss, and players with a 5-2 record or better had a shot at getting through to this stage, but many of the 5-2 players were also eliminated on tiebreakers. So when we really want to take a look at what kind of lineups and decks were successful, we have to take a look at all of those players who went 5-2 and better, because after all tiebreakers are largely a matter of luck. So looking into this group that was able to win 5 matches or more, gives us the best insight into what actually worked in the tournament. And this is what the 5-2 or better after Swiss looked like. There's 17 players here, so quite a few of them went out on tiebreakers. But this view might be a little bit hard to make a really good assessment of what was good, because like here we can see that there were a bunch of hybrid hunters, there were a bunch of clone priests, odd warriors, holy wrath paladins, odd rogues. But in order to put this all into context, we need to take a look at how many of these decks were brought to the tournament and how did they perform overall. And this is my attempt to make sense of the overall performance of these decks. These 2 tables are the same table sorted differently. So on the left there is a table that is sorted by the archetypes that went to top 4, and as you can see, quite a few archetypes went into top 4. There was no real clear single winner here. And the right side table is sorted by the percentage of players who brought this deck that went 5-2 or better. Because we don't have archetype specific statistics, the tournament organizers don't collect that kind of statistics for us. So we can use this to indirectly evaluate the performance of specific archetypes. Because 22% of players had a record of 5-2 or better. So how many percent of the players who brought a specific archetype reached that 5-2 record or better? And if that is more than 22%, then the archetype overperformed compared to the field. But it's also important to remember that the sample sizes in some cases are very low, like there was one Dogwaggle Druid, he got to 5-2 or better. 100% of players bringing Dogwaggle Druid got to 5-2 or better. Does that mean that Dogwaggle Druid is the best thing ever? Obviously not. This is not kind of sample size that we can really use to judge. At most useful, this table is when we look at the decks that were brought by a lot of players and see if that common choice turned out to be useful for them or not. For example, in this particular tournament metagame, Clone Priest, 9 players out of 19 with Clone Priest, or 47%, reached 5-2 record or better, so Clone Priest was definitely part of some very solid lineups. Same with Odd Warrior, 6 out of 14 or 43% reached 5-2 record or better. And another common archetype that overperformed was Odd Rogue, 6 out of 23, 26% reached that 5-2 or better record. Whereas there were some really big failures as well. Actually, Hybrid Hunter, even though Hybrid Hunter was brought by a number of players who reached quite good results in the tournament, there were 41 Hybrid Hunters overall, and only 6 of them made it to 5-2 or better. But Mind Blast Priest, even Paladin, even Warlock look also pretty abysmal. And yet, there was an even Paladin and a Mind Blast Priest who qualified all the way to the top 4. This particular tournament was characterized by some really auto-win, auto-loss matchups. There were many of those. Combo decks were much more common in this tournament than they have been before. And then how do you reconcile that with the fact that Odd Warrior was one of the most successful archetypes? Well, there were not that many pure combo lineups. But if there was a pure combo lineup and it came up against an Odd Warrior lineup, then the pure combo lineup almost always wins. Whereas the Old Warrior lineup is good against these sorts of Mind Blast Priest, even Paladin, even Warlock lineups. So at the top it became very, very polarized. These just bring good decks lineups were almost all eliminated, and we were left with lineups that counter them through armor and lineups that counter them through OTK. And then when we mix these up into those two groups of 4 at the finals, we come to a very strange spot where if you're in the combo bracket, like Killing All Day was with his Odd Warrior, yeah, you're not going to make it through. Whereas if you were in the non-combo bracket, like Ike was with his Odd Warrior, yeah, oh cool, you make it through. In this particular tournament, who you were matched up against mattered more than it has ever mattered before. Some very, very polarized matchups with the choices people brought. This also makes it very difficult to evaluate what is the meta going to look like at the APAC playoffs next week. Will people bring combo? Will some people try to bring aggro to counter that combo? If they bring aggro, is it even good enough to counter combo right now, or is combo simply the best archetype? We have seen in a number of previous tournaments that the tournament meta starts to consolidate as we get multiple high-level tournaments week after week. For example, in summer 2017, the tournament meta consolidated to 100% Jade Druids by the time of APAC playoffs. But are we now moving towards 100% combo, or... That's hard to say. We can try to make some sense of that by looking into the performance of combo lineups in this tournament. So these are the most combo lineups that were brought to tournament. Noblord, Bloodyface, Spiral, Frozen, and so on. Some of these are pure 100% combo lineups, some of them have mostly a hunter deck, in addition to combo decks. And looking at the Swiss performance from 7 rounds, 6 1s, 5 2s, 4 3s, there's a lone 3-3 and a 1-2 and a 1-4. But overall, that means that the combo-based lineups were doing very, very well in this tournament. I also tried to look a little bit deeper into the losses of these combo-based lineups. Okay, so what do they lose to? And they lost to each other. Not totally surprising, because many of them went pretty far in the tournament, so then they would be facing each other. There were some occasional losses to just the best decks approach, even Paladin, even Warlock. Stuff like that can take some wins against these still. But the only real combo killer lineup, well, results-wise anyway, from a very small sample size, that I was able to find was Bobby X. He brought Death Rattle Hunter, Clone Priest, Even Paladin and Quest Rogue. He went 7-0 in Swiss, he also qualified into the top 4, and he defeated Noblord, Bloodyface and PNC on his way, making him the only reliable non-combo combo killer in this tournament. That leads us to a really interesting position when it comes to the APAC playoffs that are going to be played next week, and I really don't know how this is going to turn out. Maybe everyone goes combo? I figured it would also be interesting to take a little bit of a look into the decks themselves. You can find all the decks on Hearthstone Top Decks. There's a link to the site in the description, so you can find all the decks from all the players. I used their comparison feature to compare some of the higher performing archetypes. And this is what it looks like. APM Priest was not brought by many players, there were only 3. And 2 of them qualified to the top 4, Bloodyface and Noblord. And these are their APM Priest decks, so they didn't bring the exact same list. Bloodyface had Doomsayer and Witchwood Piper in his, whereas Noblord has Seance and Ziliax. Hakar Druid was also doing great, and Bloodyface and Noblord once again both brought Hakar Druid, and this time they both brought a completely identical list. There were also a couple of Quest Rogues at the very top. Both of these Quest Rogues qualified to the top 4 Bloodyfaces and Bobby X's. Some minor differences in them. Bloodyface had brought Fan of Knives in his version, as well as a Stone Tusk Boar, and only 1 Mimic Pod, whereas Bobby X had Backstab and Sap in his 1 and 2 Mimic Pods. Already before the tournament I looked into these Wrath OTK Paladins. There was quite a lot of variety in the lists, so I figured it would be interesting to look at these. These are all the Holy Wrath Paladins that were able to get 5-2 record or better at the tournament. And well, there is still a bunch of variety. Everyone runs 1 Banker, there's both double Brewmaster lists and there's single Brewmaster lists. There are a couple of lists with 2 Holy Wraths and 3 lists with just 1 Holy Wrath. Some use Hammer of Wrath, some use Shrink Ray. So multiple minor differences between these lists. Mechatoon Warlock is another interesting one, because Mechatoon Warlock has really been a work in progress type of list. Some people are relying on Void Lords, others are pulling the Corpse Taker package. These 4 Mechatoon Warlocks were from lineups that went 5-2 or better. And this, I guess, doesn't really bring a definitive answer, because Spiral's Mechatoon Warlock is the Void Lord and Blood River Gul'dan build, the much slower build, whereas Frozen, Jackasso and Noblord all brought the Corpse Taker approach. And there are some tech differences between the Corpse Taker lists as well. A couple of them have Gluttonous for weapon removal, Frozen has Voodoo Doll. Also from playing this list myself, I sometimes miss that hard removal, and Frozen has chosen to include a Voodoo Doll for that, whereas Noblord has a Hellfire, which gives another answer for a bit wider board removal. I guess this package is still not completely solved at the moment. It was an interesting tournament, and there's a large variety of archetypes in the meta. And perhaps more than any other tournament that I have seen, this tournament the results were determined by who you were playing against, because there were so many auto-win or auto-lose matchups. But overall, the rise of combo lineups and the rise of combo decks in the tournament metagame looks like the most sustainable trend going forward. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed the show, please click the like button and subscribe to my channel for more.